Thank you so much, Anders. Excellent. In a country of 1.2 billion people, she's been elected the 15th most powerful businesswoman in India. It's a pleasure to introduce Ms. Harshbeena Zaveri from NRB Bearings.
Good morning, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here today. And I think, like everybody else, we've been enjoying ourselves every moment. I'd like to begin by talking about why I think India has a great edge, which is going to get sharper and sharper as we go forward in innovation and in making not just goods, but also services, and in growing. India will soon have a fifth of the world's working age population, and it's projected to be the world's most populous country by 2025. And that, demographics, I think is India's biggest advantage. More than 50% of our population is below the age of 25. With over 12 million young people joining the workforce each year, the government has a target to train 500 million people by 2022. India's female workforce participation rate is closer to 20% and is moving now towards 30 steadily. That's a huge opportunity. And by 2050, India will have the second highest working age population in the world. What's more interesting is that the young Indian is experimental, more innovative, and much bolder than his parents' generation, extremely aspirational, very hardworking. She's desirous of being engaged in a very creative work environment. And in fact, I would say that this is the ideal kind of employee in an R&D or innovative company. And also, as you all know, our allied software-driven design engineering capabilities are a huge advantage there. I actually believe strongly that India is a great R&D hub, and that it's also going to be exponentially the largest producer of startups, new ideas, and every kind of, I would say, breakthrough and disruptive innovation process, what we call Jugaad in India, which is a low-cost approach to get a very different outcome. India is the 8th country in terms of R&D investment in 2013. It accounted for roughly 3% of global R&D expenditure, but again, that is not a figure that you should take at face value. For example, my own company, when we make toolings for very complex parts, we probably do it at 1/5 the price that a Swedish company does. So really the value that this creates is not correctly expressed by the number. India's engineering R&D market is estimated to grow at a CAGR of 14% from the current 15 billion to 42 billion by 2020. India is amongst the top 10 nations in the world in the number of scientific publications, and it ranks 17th in the number of citations received. Total patent applications stood at 186,000 in 2014. I think the successful IT infrastructure and support, thanks to India's globally accepted success in that field, is a great enabler. It's also interesting that young people are very attracted to this kind of job because they sense a much more equal environment than you traditionally find in the rest of society. Traditional manufacturing is more hierarchical, and the newer manufacturing companies in India, which are a crossover, a new approach, are quite far away from the sweatshops that you have in your mind's eye when you think of low-cost countries. In fact, it really is a place where innovation can happen. I was invited a little while back by IMD Business School to give a presentation on our approach, the direction that our company took in the last 8 to 10 years. So I'm going to share a little bit about that today. Here's our story. NRB was established as an Indo-French joint venture between the Sahney family and a French company called Nadella, one of the oldest Indo-French joint ventures in India. We were the first company to manufacture needle roller bearings, which are sort of customized bearing solutions which go into places, very tight, constrained spaces. We started with an initial capital base of just ₹1 million, and we grew to 83.2 million only through bonus issues with no fresh infusion of equity. We went public in 1995, and more than anything, the strong values of integrity and customer orientation and respect for all stakeholders, which the founder nurtured, helped us in our journey. I'm going to describe the world to you as we saw it in the late 1990s. Our global competitors included German, Swedish, and Japanese companies, and they were seen to have a huge technological edge. Even though we had a collaborator which was very supportive, by then an American company, Ingersoll Rand, their bearing company was our partner, I noted that overall the competitors had a tendency to tell the customer what was right. They saw themselves as technology specialists and knowing much more about what they were supplying than the customer knew. We, on the other hand, tended to have a strong desire to please customers, and we often reversed engineered products when our collaborators were not the suppliers in that kind of technological space, or they were not leaders in that technology. By now, NRB was manufacturing many types of bearings and gave the widest range in India, but they continued to have a leadership position in needle bearings and cylindrical bearings. They were holding their own with SKF and FAG and many of the other companies. I joined the company in 1986 as a trainee in the manufacturing plant and grew through the ranks. However, as director of sales and marketing and strategic sourcing, when I suggested that we should set up an R&D center in 1997-98, it's not at all taken seriously. In fact, there was widespread cynicism, concerns, fear at the board level. Everyone opposed the idea. The question in everyone's mind was, can we develop technology on our own? Companies in emerging economies beg, borrow, steal for technology. We not only have a good technology partner, but you have a great relationship with them. What's the problem? My father, the founder, advised me to concentrate on Tata Motors, Ashok Leyland, and M&M. And he said that my dream of engineering future solutions for Daimler's next platform was arrogance. My approach was to form a group within the company who believed in my vision of what an Indian company can become. So we boarded off a section of our plant and started building an engineering center, meticulously planning for the future. Most of all, I bounced my thoughts off my mentor, who recently retired from the Torrington Company. And I was encouraged when he was a great believer in our capabilities. In fact, this became a game changer for us. In 2005, the Timken Company bought over our collaborators, and they wanted 51% of NRB. However, we were very lucky because Renault, Volvo, by then, it was the merged entity, had great faith in our capabilities. And even before our engineering center was officially set up and we received approval from the government of India, they gave us business as 100% supplier for 17 bearings in their first common platform, which covered now 14 countries. By the time the Indian market opened up, our competitors started to enter in a very serious way. We already had a lot of self-confidence and prestigious global customers. Today, 25% of what NRB does is exported, but more importantly, we design for the next platform, black box or gray box design. Everyone today recognizes India as an R&D hub. Some interesting recent international investments include Chinese telecom company, Huawei, recently invested $170 million in an R&D campus. They employ 98% local people. BASF is setting up an R&D center in New Mumbai, $60 million US. Twitter is going to set up its first facility outside the US, in India. Dassault Systems is extending its Living Heart Research initiative to India. This is a 3D heart simulation platform. 30% of the world's 1,000 R&D spending organizations are in India. Interestingly, there's an increase in the number of scientific research-oriented R&D centers and labs. The most interesting of them is the India-based Neutrino Observatory, which will aim to study the properties of atmospheric neutrinos, which is, are particles produced by the decay of radioactive elements. India recently launched the world's cheapest mission to Mars, and it's actually the only nation in the world that reached Mars, the first attempt. It's quite different, the reality, from the perception. As I said, people are our biggest strength. The presence of a large number of towns and cities, which will give an improved quality of life, and the Prime Minister's Smart City Initiative, combined with the Make in India initiative, really gives a very potent combination of low-cost and innovative infrastructure. I think that India is not just an opportunity for Swedish companies who are very well known for innovation. I think it's the ideal partnership to help the more traditional, hierarchical, and linear thinking innovation that takes place here with the disruptive and completely different approaches that you're going to encounter in India. As I was just saying before I came on the stage, I think that large Swedish companies should not underestimate the impact that a small, disruptive player that may not want to be big, but may actually want to be better than you in your space. And a company like ours, for example, our biggest advantage is how we can pick and choose customers, because we don't want to be everything to everyone. And I think that is going to be the kind of partnership going forward that we offer to Swedish companies. Thank you.